Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp and welcome to another episode of our Battle in the Backlog series. In this particular series I take on 10 games from my substantial backlog, playing through them to completion, then giving you a mini review of sorts of my feelings on the game, how long did it take me to beat, did I enjoy it, was it ultimately worth it. The 10 games on here, it was quite slow going for the first 5, I must say. It took a while to get through them. Then I went on holiday for a week and absolutely blitzed through 5 more, so it really sped up the production of this particular episode. So which games have I finished and were they worth it? Well, let's find out. The first game off the backlog then was Cotton Fantasy. This is a new entry in the Cotton series of shoot 'em ups, but as well as Cotton herself, there are a number of other characters to choose from, some from other franchises such as Kawase from the Umehara Kawase series. But what's really interesting here is how they all have completely different movesets and therefore make the game feel very different on a second playthrough. Plus each character has their own unique stage to play through, so there is a lot of scope for multiple playthroughs, which will extend the playtime shown below to a much larger number of course. I reviewed this one, so please do click in the top right hand corner to watch a full rundown of how the game plays, and any other games we have reviewed or covered will also have a card in the corner where you can get a more in-depth review, but I will say this is a great time, very much worth playing. Another game I beat recently is my game of the year on the Switch so far, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. This new beat 'em up has taken heavy inspiration from my favourite game of all time, Turtles in Time, and has some real beat 'em up pedigree behind it, having been developed by Tribute Games, who are made up by a number of people behind the Scott Pilgrim vs the World beat 'em up, and published by Dotemu, who of course more recently made the equally brilliant Streets of Rage 4. Here you have the 4 turtles to choose from, as well as a few other playable characters, and there is the option of local and online multiplayer, with both being great fun. As well as Turtles in Time, there's a heavy influence from the 1987 Turtles cartoon, a massive part of my childhood, and it is treated with a huge amount of respect, which is great to see. This is a brilliant game, another one reviewed on the channel, so please do click the card in the top right hand corner for the full story.
Even geniuses fall down sometimes.
Next was a top-down shooter called Pocky and Rocky Reshrined. This is an upgraded version of a Super Nintendo game which, whilst using the same pixel art style, has received a graphical upgrade and it does look lovely. You play as Shrine Maiden Pocky and at other times her Tanuki friend Rocky, but there are a few other playable characters new to this version which unlock on completion. The action is very intense and it's quite a difficult game, but definitely worth playing, and I really did enjoy blasting through it. There are a few oddities in terms of how you unlock certain game modes though. You collect coins as you go along and can use these to unlock both the 2-player mode and easy mode. 2-player mode also unlocks on completion of the game, but not being able to play through the story with a friend on your first playthrough is a bit silly, and the easy mode being locked away is quite ludicrous. Still a great game though, well worth playing. The next one is another shoot 'em up actually, which wasn't intentional, but I did pick up the Deathsmiles collection from PlayAsia and completed the first game. Whenever I play an arcade game, I set myself a limit of 5 credits to finish it in, and even if I play past that and finish the game, I won't consider it officially completed until I've done it in 5 or less. This is a shooter from Japanese developers Cave, well known for their output in the genre, and it takes about 50 minutes I would say to finish, although I lost my 5th continue on the final boss in my first playthrough, so started again. I managed it on the second playthrough though, and it is a very good shooter. You have separate buttons to be able to shoot both forwards and backwards, and this mechanic means that you are attacked from both sides often. I liked this aspect, and you also have a life bar rather than one-hit kills, which I found quite refreshing. Whilst the total playtime here may look small, there are a number of characters to choose from and different sets of stages to select, so definitely replay value here, and aside from that of course you have the huge pull of going for the high scores. I also finished Little Inferno, which is quite an unusual game, basically set around the concept of burning things in a fireplace. You begin with a catalogue that you can then order items from, and you are then able to burn these, which earns you coins. These coins can be spent on further items to burn, and burning all items in one catalogue sees the next catalogue of items unlock. It's a very addictive cycle, and the gameplay is enhanced by the fact there are combinations of items that you can burn to earn bonuses, and you must attempt to work out what the combinations are based on cryptic titles given to each of them. The story is drip fed as you play, and it is quite a clever tale with a heavy dose of satire, and all in all I really did enjoy it. I found it quite cathartic, and I did burn through it in no time at all, no pun intended, as I did find at times I just couldn't put it down. So I had that week's holiday I mentioned away with the wife and kids, which did mean having some time in the evenings to play games solely for fun, away from reviews or the channel, and it did wonders for this series as I finished 5 games in that time. The first of these was AI the Somnium Files. It was nice to be able to finish a longer game. It took about 23 hours in total to get all of the endings in this detective based visual novel. You play as a police officer called Date, who works for a department able to use technology to enter people's dreams and extract information from suspects and witnesses to then solve crimes. The crimes in question here are a series of murders, and the game is a nice blend of the conversation from the visual novels and the more action based dream sequences where you have 6 minutes to get the evidence you need and get back out. As I said, there are a number of paths to take with branching narratives depending on some of your decisions, and they did play out quite differently. Sometimes a storyline would end quite abruptly, as you would then need to play more of another line to unlock the end of the previous one. From a suspense standpoint, this did keep you guessing, but it could be a little jarring to leave a story thread behind, finish another one off, and then return to the previous one. If you like visual novels though, this is a very good one, and it has just received a sequel which I will be picking up soon.
A CRT TV.
Another big game chalked off whilst I had the free time. I made my way through the final throes of Pokemon Legends Arceus. I spoke about this game recently in our favourite games of 2022 video, and I did really enjoy this new approach to a series that I definitely feel had gone a bit stale. I liked the open wilderness with Pokemon there to be caught either via stealth or through more traditional battling, and I feel that there is a lot of potential here for any possible sequel to really refine this formula and build on the model. I did feel that the battles against the frenzied Pokemon were too easy and wish they had adopted a more traditional battle sequence for these situations. The final battle in particular felt like quite an anticlimax for this reason. Having said that, I also felt that the turn-based battles felt a bit unbalanced in this new format, with way too many one-hit kills either for you or against you. Like I said, a few tweaks needed, but still very enjoyable, and I'm happy to have been able to finish this one off. Then I completed Marsupilami, which is a pretty traditional 2D platformer, quite similar to something like Donkey Kong Country, based on a Franco-Belgian comic book character who dates back to the 1950s. I do like playing games based on more obscure licensed properties, and there are quite a few of the Franco-Belgian characters with games on the Switch, as well as this one of course, with a number of Asterix games and a Smurfs game available too. These are all characters that I would imagine are more familiar to European viewers than possibly those of you watching from other areas of the world, but please do correct me if that isn't the case, and this particular game is actually pretty decent. Like I said, the mechanics remind me of Donkey Kong Country, and I liked the colourful and vibrant aesthetic. There are 3 worlds with around 10 levels per world and a boss battle at the end, although the boss battles were more like chase sequences as you needed to avoid being caught by the boss as you traversed platforms and avoided obstacles. It's quite a short game, and having 3 worlds means there's not a huge amount of variety in terms of the settings, but if you do find it for a good price, it is definitely fun to play. The 9th game I finished in this time was South of the Circle. This is a game with a heavy emphasis on story, which I completed whilst making a video on it, and I'll put a card in the top right hand corner if you want more information. You play as a lecturer from Cambridge University who finds himself in mortal danger when his plane crashes whilst on a research expedition to Antarctica. There are some exploratory moments where you look around some of the bases found as you search for help, but it is much more about taking part in conversations and choosing the emotion that you feel best conveys your point. Basically, you have a number of ways that you can respond to someone, so whilst you don't pick the literal response, you instead choose whether to answer confidently or empathetically, despondently or arrogantly. You get the idea. There are also a number of choices that you need to make at certain points which will shape your relationships. I have to say with this one, the voice acting was top notch, which really did help you to care about the characters and the story in general, and I did like the non-linear approach which had you jump in from your current perilous position to a flashback of the past, and the transitions here were handled very well. There was a decision late in the game where I felt the pictures you had to choose from weren't clear enough, which led me to picking the one I didn't want. A written label underneath here would have solved this, but on the whole I did enjoy this one, as long as you are happy that it's more about the story than full on gameplay.
Suppose I can get a little more work done. Let me know when we're coming up to the bright lights of Cambridge, won't you?
And finally, the 10th game was another big one that's been on my backlog since the 3rd of March 2017. Yes, it was Breath of the Wild. In a similar vein to the other two bigger games I mentioned a moment ago, I used the time away to dig back into this one, which I hadn't played according to my save data since 2019. I had 2 divine beasts left to defeat and then Ganon to take on, of course, but I also did a little more exploring and found a few more shrines. I have to say that being able to spend another 15 hours or so with this game really did remind me of just how great this game is. I don't think it ever quite clicked with me to the extent it did with other people when I played it before, as much as I did still enjoy it, but I really did get a grasp of the world this time round. I think the Divine Beast areas were a great idea, something I hope they expand upon in the sequel, and I really liked the numerous ways that you could solve the puzzles found in the shrines. I'm still not a big fan of the breakable weapons and feel they could flesh out the cooking idea further in the next game, but I am very happy that I finally got to give this game some proper time and be able to appreciate it fully and of course finish it. 75 hours in total were plumped into it, but that number could have been higher still, of course. I actually bought Hyrule Warriors shortly after getting back from holiday, a game I hadn't had a huge amount of interest in, but after finishing off Breath of the Wild I wanted to see more of the lore behind this new interpretation of Hyrule. So there you have it, 10 more games off the list, some that have sat on there staring at me for absolutely ages, finally finished. It was lovely to play Breath of the Wild, as I said, just spend some time with it and not have to worry about other things you've got to do. It really did make me appreciate that game so much more than I had before. Please do let me know of any games that you have finished recently. I do, as I say every time, love hearing about games other people play. It is a big part of the enjoyment of doing this series. Stick it all in the comment section below. If you are looking for eShop credit to pick up any games, don't forget you can get eShop cards from our website switchup.gg. We do have 10% off up until the end of this month using the code SwitchUp. And if you are looking to import any games, something I've been doing a lot more myself lately, I'll maybe show some of those off in the next physical games video I do, then we do have a link down below in the description and the top pinned comment. Use that link and then use the code stated and you can get yourself 5% off of an order. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.